Homelander is often treated as a punching bag by the power scaling community. It first started with comparisons to other evil Superman, but it quickly became apparent that he couldn't stand up to them. Then he started getting compared to anyone with similar superpowers to him, and again he couldn't stand up to most of them. What certainly didn't help John was the TV show making him progressively more pathetic. With all this combined, Homelander became a laughingstock with people racing to see who could find the weirdest fictional character to mop the floor with him. But today I'll try to give him a win by matching him up against a character that shouldn't stand a chance against John based on how I see most people scale him on the internet. Leon Scott Kennedy. Now this matchup might seem random at first, but if you think about it, Resident Evil and The Boys are very similar. They are both series about regular human soldiers fighting super soldier bioweapons made by evil pharmaceutical companies. Today I'll be rooting for John, since his TV show is about to end and I'm pretty sure that the events of the last season are going to ridicule him, due to him representing opposite political views to those of the writers and the showrunner. Let's start with John's scaling. Disclaimer, Season 5 is still ongoing, so if some new relevant feat or statement comes out after this video, I'll put it either in the description or in a pinned comment. For attack potency, I'll ignore the show's anti-feats and treat them as mistakes. Instead, I'll rely on statements, since you could argue those are intended to better represent his actual capabilities, while the show itself may not have been able to depict stronger feats due to production limitations. Using the best possible statement and the most generous interpretation, John can be scaled to multi-city block level based on Stan's neutron bomb statement. This is the best statement, since Stillwell's job is literally to make the soups look invincible, and is made as a threat to scare off Butcher. Stillwell's statement is also contradicted by the Stan Edgar statement I used to scale John, and Butcher's statement about a soldier boy killing weapon being able to kill John, with him thinking that this weapon is either a hydrogen bomb or a weapon of similar caliber. I'd place his overall durability also at multi-city block level, with exceptions for weak points like his eyes and ears. For speed, I'll use the Mach 18.2 calc for the silly side vest scene from vs Battle Wiki, since it's the fastest interpretation I have seen. When not using his flight, we see that regular people, like on drugs, can perceive him. But I'll ignore that and say that all his attacks and dodges are at Mach 18.2. And before you say anything, no, John doesn't scale to A-Train. A-Train blatantly outspeeds John and his heat vision at the Freedom Camp. And even after getting hurt, we see John chase A-Train and A-Train outruns him. By the scene with the lady, A-Train has made enough distance between himself and John that we don't see John for multiple seconds after A-Train crashes. It's even less close when you consider that A-Train's running a further distance due to needing to avoid obstacles and being on ground. For abilities, he has Flight, he can use to change positions and force Leon to attack him with his ranged arsenal. Heat Vision, that gives him a ranged option, however, it has never been shown to be as strong as him. Its best scaling is its heat melting metal. Since heat is a known durability negation in fiction, if he can keep his vision on Leon, he can hurt him with the heat. Since to my knowledge, Leon has 0 feats of withstanding high temperatures, enhanced senses and see-through eyes. Originally I was planning on saying that his enhanced senses would let him keep track of Leon and possible traps, even in disadvantageous terrain. However, with every season we see more and more anti-feats for his senses, so I can't without lying say that his senses would help him in a fight. Actually quite the opposite. John's weaknesses. Due to his super senses, he is susceptible to high frequency noises, which cause him pain and even stun him temporarily. And bright lights can blind him and stun him for multiple seconds. John doesn't have any clear weaknesses to specific materials or elements other than the Season 5 virus, which Leon doesn't have. His heat vision requires sustained contact to transfer enough heat to be effective, as shown when Maeve redirected it with her arm after it hit her chest. Breaking the beams focused fast enough can nullify its damage. It's also interrupted when he blinks or is forced to close his eyes, such as when Black Noir used small throwing explosives or when shines a light in his eyes. He is extremely arrogant and lacks any showings of battle IQ. He does have superficial showings of strategy, like in Season 4, Episode 4, but nothing special. John is a novice fighter, meaning even a weaker opponent could gain an advantage against him through even basic fighting skills. Now, let's scale today's victim. Leon, being a multimedia character, is more complicated to scale than John, who only has 2 TV shows and 1 animated episode. Due to this, I have to make it clear that Leon's scaling will come only from scripted content. Leon isn't enhanced by any of the many bioweapons of the Resident Evil series. He is just a very skilled agent. Due to this, he may seem just like a normal human filling a role similar to MM or Frenchie. But nothing is quite normal in the world of Resident Evil. Leon is unarguably superhuman. In the Resident Evil series, it's extremely consistent that high levels of skill make you superhuman. Characters that are confirmed to be normal humans with just superhuman skill have super speed and super strength. In Resident Evil, being a good martial artist makes you capable of doing things like exploding super soldiers by kicking them, and being good at backflips makes you capable of outspeeding rockets. Leon specifically scales physically to many of his opponents, due to him fighting them or downright beating them with just his physical stats in scripted events. So, let's take a look at some of the bioweapons the series' Golden Boy faces to see how he'd threat against John. In Resident Evil 9, while weakened by the T-Virus, Leon faces off against Nemesis Y, who he can injure with just physical attacks and whose attacks he can block and even tank. Y has overall significantly better stats than Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, who in his weakest form tanks a large town-level attack from the finger. What do you mean the backflip guy has town-level scaling? I mean, surely that's an outlier and Leon doesn't have any other scaling of that caliber, right? So anyway, El Gigante just by walking makes earthquakes that shake a whole farm and a rope bridge to a beyond magnitude 5 extent. Even lowballing the affected area to 20 meters, El Gigante would have to be hitting the ground with small town levels of energy, and Leon tanks attacks from him and hurts him. Speaking of earthquakes, in the OG canon, Birkin and Nemesis easily beat the Gravediggers, who attack with earthquakes that destroy a cemetery and a city block. To produce earthquakes like those, you need to be outputting town levels of energy, and the weakest form of Nemesis tanks a town level railgun. And of course, the director of Resident Evil 9 said that Leon is the strongest character in the series' history. This and his performance against Zeno and Victor lets us scale Leon even higher, but I think town level was fine for this video. Leon's guns should upscale from him. We know this due to gameplay and the guns still being treated as a threat in Resident Evil 9. But saying that they are town level is sufficient for this video. Some might argue that this should downscale Leon, but Resident Evil weapons are confirmed to be stronger than their real-life counterparts. Specifically, they are powered up to scale to the various bioweapons encountered in the games. This isn't limited to Resident Evil 4, since in Resident Evil 5, 6, 8 and 9 we see the guns get further upgrades, so they keep getting stronger to scale to bioweapons from every era. Leon can tank attacks from the same characters I used to scale him to town level, so I'll put his durability at town level too. Okay, this may look bad for John, but John should still be able to kill him with his heat vision. And he does call it a laser, so the showrunner probably intends for it to be a light speed attack. So Leon should still be screwed. Why do I hear boss music? For speed, Leon's scaling to Victor, and the director's statement put him solidly above the speed of light. No, this isn't just wank, it's consistent. Alexia Ashford can dodge a linear plasma launcher, which is a relativistic feat. Wesker can casually dodge electricity, which moves through air at relativistic speeds, making this a relativistic to relativistic plus feat. Morpheus the Wall can dodge charged particle beams even at point blank. Those move at 99% of the speed of light. He's moving a further distance than them, so this is an about light speed feat. Victor is casually capable of tagging Zeno, who should have Vesker's casual relativistic plus scaling. This puts Victor comfortably around the speed of light. Krauser moved a further distance than light in the same amount of time, which is a blatant faster than light feat, and Leon upscales all of this based on the Resident Evil 9 statement and his performance. As for abilities, Leon is an absurdly skilled fighter from his very first appearance. I don't think I have to go into all the details since his opponent is a terrible fighter, but in every entry in the franchise where Leon makes his appearance, he gets glazed for being the best of the best. To make a long story short, Leon is extremely skilled at close quarters combat with knives and axes. He has mastered over 6 martial arts and is a top of the world marksman with his own John Wick inspired gunfu martial art. He in canon finds and exploits weaknesses in the biology of humans and monsters. Leon should, as part of his standard equipment, have some grenades, which he can use to attack John or to interrupt his heat vision. He should also have some healing items, which are shown in the games to be able to heal broken bones, reattach severed limbs, and completely close bullet and shrapnel wounds. Lastly, Leon should have a firearm that provides him with a ranged form of attack and an axe or a knife, since his fighting style in the games is revolved around them. So, Leon's faster, stronger, more durable, and a better fighter than John. So, John should lose. Well, not necessarily. Power scaling is all about interpretation, and there are in fact ways to interpret John's scaling to give him the edge. You can argue that soups in the boys are in fact unkillable by normal means, and you must find a specific way to kill every different soup. It's possible to say that based on some statements in the show, John can't be beaten to death with an axe. You can also use certain promotional materials to argue John is town level, evening out the match up a bit. So yes, John could beat Leon, but from my point of view, Leon takes the win more often than not.
I take responsibility for racism.
I am, is it Nagar?